It was close and airless, and the earthy smell was strong. The mole struck a match, and by its light the rat saw that they were standing in an open space. The space was neatly swept and sanded underfoot. Directly facing them was Mole's little front door, with Mole End painted in Gothic lettering over the bell pull at the side. Mole took down a lantern from a nail on the wall and lit it, and the rat looked around him and saw that they were in a sort of forecourt. A garden seat stood on one side of the door, and on the other a roller. The mole was a tidy animal and couldn't stand to have his ground kicked up by other animals into little heaps of earth. Down on one side of the forecourt ran a skittle alley, with benches along it and little wooden tables. In the middle was a round, small pond. Mole's face beamed at the sight of all these objects. He hurried Rat through the door, lit a lamp in the hall, and took one glance around his old home. Immediately he saw the dust lying thick on everything, saw the cheerless, deserted look of the long-neglected house, and collapsed against a hall chair. "Oh, Ratty," he cried dismally, "why ever did I do it? Why did I bring you to this poor, cold little place on a night like this?" The rat paid no heed to him. He was running here and there, opening doors, inspecting rooms and cupboards, and lighting lamps and candles. "What a capital little house this is," he called out cheerily. "Everything here and everything in its place. The first thing we want is a good fire. I'll fetch the wood and the coals, and you get a duster." Encouraged by his companion, the mole dusted and polished with energy, while the rat soon had a cheerful blaze roaring up the chimney. He hailed the mole to come and warm himself, but Mole promptly had another fit of the blues. "Rat," he moaned, "how about your supper, you poor, cold, hungry, weary animal? I've got nothing to give you." "What a fellow you are for giving in," said the rat calmly. "Why, only just now I saw a sardine opener in the kitchen dresser, and everybody knows that means there's sardines about somewhere. Put yourself together and come with me and forage." They went and foraged accordingly, hunting through every cupboard and turning out every drawer. The result was not so very depressing after all. A tin of sardines, a box of Captain's biscuits, nearly full, and a German sausage encased in silver paper. "There's a banquet for you," observed the rat as he arranged the table. "No bread," groaned the mole. "No butter, no—" "Oh, don't be silly. No caviar, no champagne," continued the rat, grinning. "And that reminds me, what's that little door at the end of the passage? Your cellar, of course." Rat made his way to the cellar door and presently appeared with a bottle in each paw and under each arm. "Now, wherever did you pick up those prints? Make the place look so homelike they do. No wonder you're so fond of it, Mole. Tell us all about it and how you came to make it what it is." The mole, much cheered by Rat's fine compliments, took time to show off his splendid abode. The rat, though desperately hungry, allowed the mole to hold court. At last the rat succeeded in decoying him to the table and had just got seriously to work with the sardine opener when sounds were heard from the forecourt outside, sounds like the scuffling of small feet and a confused murmur of tiny voices. "Now, all in line. Hold the lantern up a bit, Tommy. Clear your throats first. Where's young Bill?" "What's up?" inquired the rat. "Oh, I think it must be the field mice," replied Mole. "They go around carol singing regularly at this time of year. I used to give them hot drinks and supper, too, sometimes." "Well, let's have a look at them," cried the rat, jumping up and running to the door. It was a pretty sight that met their eyes. In the forecourt, lit by the dim rays of a lantern, some 8 or 10 little field mice stood in a semicircle. They had red scarves around their necks, and their forepaws were thrust deep into their pockets. With bright, beady eyes, they glanced shyly at each other. As the door opened, one of the older ones that carried the lantern proclaimed, "Now then, 1, 2, 3!" And forthwith their shrill little voices rose up into the chill night air.
Villagers all this frosty tide, let your door swing open wide. Though wind may follow and snow beside, yet draw us in by your fire to bide. Joy shall be yours in the morning. Here we stand in the cold and the sleet, glowing fingers and stamping feet. Come from far away to greet you by the fire as we in the street, bidding you joy in the morning. For 2.5 of the night was gone, sun and the star has led us on, raining bliss and benison. This tomorrow and more anon, joy for every morning. Joy shall be yours in the morning. Joy shall be yours in the morning.
The voices ceased. The singers exchanged sidelong glances, but for a moment only. Then from up above and far away, down the tunnel they had so lately traveled, came the sound of distant bells, ringing a joyful and clangorous peal. "Very well sung, boys," cried the rat heartily, "and now come along in and warm yourselves." "Yes, come along in, field mice," cried the mole eagerly. "This is quite like old times. Shut the door after you. Pull up that settle to the fire. Now, you just wait a minute while I—" "Oh, Ratty," he cried in despair, "we have nothing to give them." "You leave all that to me," said the masterful rat. "You with the lantern, I want to talk to you. Now tell me, are there any shops open at this hour of the night?" "Oh, why certainly, sir," replied the field mouse respectfully. "At this time of the year, our shops keep open to all sorts of hours." "Then look here," said the rat. "You go off at once, you and your lantern, and you get me—" And here he muttered a conversation ensued, such as, "Fresh, mind. No, a pound of that will do. If you can't get it there, try somewhere else. Yes, of course, homemade." Finally, there was a chink of coin passing from paw to paw. The field mice was provided with a basket for his purchases, and off he hurried. The rest of the field mice, perched in a row on the settle, their small legs swinging, gave themselves up to the enjoyment of the fire. The rat, meanwhile, was busy examining the label of one of the bottles. "I think this is ginger ale," he remarked approvingly. "The very thing. Now we shall all be able to mull some ginger ale. Get the things ready, Mole, while I draw the corks." It didn't take long to prepare the brew, and soon every fine field mice was sipping and coughing and choking, for a little mulled ginger ale goes a long way, and wiping his eyes and laughing. "They act plays too, these fellows," the mole explained to Rat. Make them up all by themselves, and very well they do it too. They gave us a capital one last year about a field mouse who was captured at sea by pirates. Here, you were in it. Get up and recite a bit." The field mouse addressed got up on his legs, giggled shyly, looked around the room, and remained absolutely tongue-tied. His comrades cheered him on, Mole coaxed and encouraged him, and the rat went so far as to shake him a little bit, but nothing could overcome his stage fright. The now mute field mouse was saved from another further encouragement by the sound of the door opening. The field mouse with the lantern had reappeared with a heavy basket. There was no more talk of play acting once the contents of the basket had been tumbled out onto the table. Under the generalship of Rat, everybody was set to do something. In a very few minutes, supper was ready. As they ate, they talked about old times. They clattered off at last, very grateful indeed. When the door had closed on the last of them, Mole and Rat kicked the fire up, drew their chairs in, and discussed the events of the day. At last the Rat, with a tremendous yawn, said, "Mole, I'm ready to drop." "That your own bunk over there on that side? Very well, then I'll take this." And Rat clambered into his bunk and rolled himself well up in the blankets as slumber gathered him in.